I'm from a little town called Treherbert in the Rhondda in South Wales. I'd like to start off by saying thanks to all the people that commented on all my YouTube play-ins. Thank you very much for that, not only from the UK but from America, Holland, other parts of the world, so thank you very much for that. A lot of people have asked me on YouTube, emailed me, why can't I teach them some of the solos that I play? Well, I'm so busy, it's very difficult. But in response to that, I'd like to show the way that I taught myself when I was 15 in 1964. I taught myself to play, there was no one to teach you. So it was a long hard struggle, but you get there in the end, and this is the way I sort of approach it from a beginner's point of view. I'll take you from the way I learned chords up to more advanced stuff that I do now. Like I've hardly played in a band. I haven't played in a band for 21 years, for example. 10 years ago I had a camcorder and I started to play a little bit then, and I had it on the camcorder. But about 3 or 4 years ago I had a Porter Studio, which I used downstairs in the corner. My wife won't let me have a spare bedroom like this one, because the grandchildren tend to stay over, so unfortunately I haven't got a little studio. I gotta do it the hard way. But anyway, a lot of people complain they got small hands and they can't play. Well, I got very little hands. My little finger is 2 inches, my little thumb is 2 inches, that finger and that finger is 2.5 inches each, and the longest one is 3 inches, so I have got little hands. So it is possible to play with little hands pretty good. Obviously you're not going to get long stretches like the old Van Halen or George Lynch type of play. It's just impossible. And not only that, if you're, you know, like, I find that a struggle, but you know, you can play it there. But if you play it in B flat, you can just about manage it. But there are ways for that. You can put a capo there and do it like an open string type of position playing. So I like to start off with the way I taught myself chords. There's a fellow working with my father. He gave my father this Jeffrey Sisley book on how to play guitar, but the only thing valid in there was some of the chord shapes. So I started off with the simple chord shapes. I was up until 3 o'clock in the morning when I was in school, so I was pretty wrecked by the time I got to school every day. It didn't take long. The way I adopted it was, you know, I done it in keys, so I think it's better musically for you to learn in keys instead of the cage system where you play C, A, G, E, D, for example. So this is the way I done it anyway. Of course I play the chords differently now than I did when I was learning them. So C, A minor, F, G seventh. That's a chord of C, C, A minor, F, G seventh. D is D, B minor, G and A seventh. There's plenty of articles around for showing you all these keys, but what I done was, say in the key of C was, there used to be like a minor vamp in those days, so with that sort of tune in mind, you're not only doing the chords, but you're actually changing them. So it didn't take me probably less than a week to go through the simpler chords, you know, the keys. You know, D. So that's the way I got it. Of course, as progressing keys, some of the chords you would have learned from some of the other keys, so it gets quicker. After I've done that, I could see the diminished, augmented chords. Of course, as time went on, then major sevenths. But to learn all that sort of stuff, you really need to. Well, what I done was to play the Beatles, because the Beatles, they use more advanced chords than anyone else in those days, so you tend to learn more complicated chords, you know, and that's the way I adopt. When I say I played the chords different to when I learned them, I think most people do. Like for example, you learn C like this. Well, I usually use, quite often I use the full version, and sometimes I use the added G on the first string. There's more of a ringing sound, like a folky sort of sound. I think it's worth learning chords in all positions where you know where they are. So like C for example, C, sometimes I play C like that, or the full vowel chord, and then back up an octave, or E minor. So learn chords in all positions is much better for you. Like A for example, I play it different to the way I learned it. We all learn it like that, but I tend to use the first three fingers like this. Play little added notes and stuff that way as well. Sometimes I do play like this if I'm doing something like this. Or sometimes I play like this. Depends what you're playing. Use a C major scale and you can harmonise triads to it. So in other words, you're playing a scale with chords. Like example, the key is C. It'd be C, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, B diminished, and back up to C, octave higher. You can also play the first two notes as harmony to each other, as double stops. You can also play the sixes using the third string, the first string, like this. Quite often they use a passing note by here. There's a Wishbone Ash song called Sing Out the Song Brother, and that sort of uses the chords in the scale of C, and it goes something like this. Oops. Another use of sixes is in like this 12-bar blues in sort of A. Bear with me because it's difficult to get up the top of this, so it goes something like this. The Animals brought out House of the Rising Sun. That was like simple chords, but formed as an arpeggio, and it went something like this. Sort of thing, you know. So concludes the way I sort of adopted chords. Okay. When I started playing the chords, I started learning small little solo bits and stuff, so it just went along the same time, you know, chords. All sort of chords, you know, supplementing with the easy chords. Learnt a lot of more advanced chords by playing, I'd say, the Beatles stuff, cabaret stuff, not so much jazz, too difficult. But anyway, going back to the solo part, I learned a lot from the Shadows, because they were the band at the time, really. Bits of Beatles stuff and whatever was in the charts, really, little fragments of solos. You know, when the Shadows come along, I used to go over to Tom Pandy, Gregory Stowe, and buy the Shadows songbook, so I learnt a lot of their stuff within the first 6 months of learning, really. You know, stuff like Apache. That sort of stuff, you know, Wonderful Land. And lots of the instrumentals, Fingerstyle. That sort of stuff. Yeah, sort of both. Doing Eddie brought Shazam out, and I liked the version that the Shadows done. It was the B-side of Geronimo, and it went something like this. Of course, Bruce Welch played the rhythm, the spit, but I got to do both, so bear with me. I'll do it slow though. Sort of thing. Something like that. It starts with me. I start off on the G, on the 6th string, and then slide up around there somewhere, some indefinite point, just about. So it's on the G. And then do on the, like the B, you know, run the B. Something like that. And then stuff like Lucille. So forth. When I was saying about alternate picking, Ian Downstrokes got his place in the guitar playing universe, I suppose, you know, and other stuff like Walk in a Room and stuff like that, and you know, from the Beatles, and you know, all fragments of little things that help me go along, and then you start learning solos and more intricate stuff, and it just goes from there, really. but you've got to start off slow really. When I first started, I say come to the cookhouse door boys. Probably one of the easiest solos I learnt, and then my father used to play mouth organ, and then he rattled out the Hillbillies tune on my brother's 4-guinea acoustic, and then he showed me it was something like this. So it just went on from there, you know, learning these little small bits, and that's the way to go. Of course, the swing of Blue Jeans brought out Hippie Hippie Shake and that, and something like this. I've forgotten the sequence now, but anyway. You know, and something like that. But the solo was it's in the key of E. Chuck Berry was a big influence on countless millions of guitarists, and still is. He started off using the 2-string, that sort of thing. That sort of messing around. This is something I concocted. You know, this style of playing. Of course, in the mid '60s, Eric Clapton was there, and Jimi Hendrix, and everyone had to start to learn to play better. So this is 2 little fragments of theirs. Eric Clapton with Cream and Sunshine Your Love, which went something like this in D. That sort of thing. Good watch this, because the third will rattle on this. That sort of thing anyway. And the bluesy sort of stuff, of course. This is a couple of fragments from The King Will Come. It's in a key of D minor, and the intros goes something like this. So there's like a chordal interlude, and it goes something like this. I'll play it slow to start with. Something like that. I'm not a finger picker, but I have learned, taught myself again, very basic way to do it, and you can either do it with the plectrum or your fingers. It won't take you long. Just play about, you know, improvise. And what I do, if I try and use these fingers, you know, like. just do that. Play about, just improvise, doesn't matter what you're doing, you just, and after a while they just seem to fall in place. Don't take long, you know, and then if you want to go into thinking proper, you know, you'd have to learn it properly, not not like I'm doing. It's useful to use the pick, you know, even in the playing, like, you know. You know, using the both picks here. So you know, you use two, like, you know. That sort of thing, you know. You can use like Mark Knopfler and just use these two fingers. That sort of thing, anyway, you know. But I don't use it a lot, but it does seem to come into play when I'm playing about, so. So that's the way I had to mess about with, and most of my 90% of my playing is just improvising. I come up in my little this bedroom here, and this is a great guitar. I use this 90% of the time. I don't pull my electrics out unless I'm actually doing some of my tunes on the Porter Studio, but I tend to learn most of them on this. And with this, you can easily pick it out of the corner, take it out of the bag, and just sit on the edge here. I've got a mirror there. So I don't look at this, I look in the mirror, so I got this. I can see in the mirror, so I seem to have got the knack of looking at myself playing rather than looking at it like that. So sweet finger picking when I was been playing a couple of months, I think it was. Not that long. I've always liked green sleeves, so I thought, oh, I'll try and do it as like a finger pick thing. It's nothing like it. It's totally incorrect, really. But I still play it like I did when I learned it all those years ago. I never sort of gone back and learned it properly. But this is the way I done it in the 60s. The more you play around and fiddle, it seems to come together. I was saying earlier, the weakest finger is the little finger, so it's really speaking. I've learned to use all my fingers, which is a necessity when you've got little hands as well. And because I don't play that much, normally I do about 15 tunes on my Porter Studio, and then it's all put away for a few months. I may have to do a bit of DIY or other stuff, so I tend to do these exercises to keep my fingers strong for when I go back to my Porter Studio again. And this is what I do. As well as doing that, you need to alternate pick. So the first tune I learnt was Come to the Cookhouse Door Boys, 3 open strings here. that's alternating picking instead of. That's downstrokes, which is not very practical for fast playing if you want to play reasonably fast or whatever. So, and then of course you had the normal sort of 12-bar boogie. Okay. That's just downstrokes, so the way to do that is dun, 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 that sort of thing, you know, this dun, dun, so you're actually alternate picking. So that sort of gives you an exercise, an easy exercise to use alternate picking. Another one that's pretty well documented is to use your fingers is using chromatic notes. So if you use chromatic notes and alternate picking, it does a lot for your fingers, I found. So if you start from there, that sort of thing, it's a bit more difficult down there, but if you start off learning, start on A somewhere there, and it's alternate, chromatic rather, and the next one. So start off slow, and so your fingers and your brain will memorize each alternate step. 1, 2, 3, 4. And once you get to there, go up a semitone, come back down. Once you're back there, go up a semitone, so like this. So you start from the bottom and you end at the top. You can always go back down as well if you want to. Just make up your own exercises as long as you're using all your fingers. And it's scales. I only learned 2 of them really. I don't bother much with scales, but I know 2, and I tend to use those just to exercise my fingers. One's the A major scale in 2 octaves, and the A harmonic minor scale. But if you're serious about your guitar playing, doing all sorts of scales and all sorts of things. But anyway, this is what I do. It's just to exercise my finger really. That's the A major scale in 2 octaves, and the A harmonic minor is. I tend to combine the 2 together. Something like that. I should slow it down really. Anyway, that's I tend to practice that just to keep my fingers in trim. And that's my scales. Another thing that's handy is just using your 2 fingers here. You can do a lot with 2 fingers where you can't do with all your fingers, you know. Sort of thing, you know. If you do this little passage from minor swing that I done. great with 2 fingers, much easier with 2 fingers than if you use all your fingers on that particular passage. That sort of thing, you know, so. So using 2 fingers can be useful sometimes. Another exercise to strengthen my fingers and to get them going a bit is to do this arpeggio thing that I sort of lashed up. It starts off in D minor, E minor and then A minor. I'll do it slow. Something like that. Just what I'm doing, but it's another exercise. When I said I only know 2 scales, that's wrong really. I just use those 2 scales just to practice, but there's lots of scales, plenty of information on stuff like that. But the A natural minor in A goes something like this. In E minor at the top, similar pattern, but up here. There's lots of solos and stuff based around all the chord sequences, and like in E minor. You know, you just play around in the scale. Of course, with scales there's the minor and the major pentatonics, which are used quite a lot when you're improvising. There's only 5 notes in them. They've taken some of the notes out of the scale, not to clash with some of the chords, and it works quite well. A lot of rock uses the minor pentatonic, and a lot of country uses the major pentatonic, quite often with added notes. The way I play them, I usually add some notes, some passing notes and stuff like that. You can do what you want basically. So the minor pentatonic is A, C, D, E, G, and then back to A, and then it goes further on up the scale. So there's only 5 notes in that. Of course, with that I use the passing note there instead of the passing note there. In country, as I said, they use the major pentatonic. So in G, for example, pentatonic, as I said, is 5 notes. So in G it would be, say, G, A, B, D, E, and then back up to G. 2, 3, 4, 5. You think you won't be able to make some good solos out of those couple of notes, but there's some fantastic solos that's incorporated using those notes. Also, they use some passing notes. Here's something I made up many years ago, and this sort of country vibe uses a few different notes as well of the pentatonic, but it went something like this. octaves is quite useful as well, you know. Octave, I tend to do a lot of octaves on the 5th and the 3rd string, you know. That's C. I tend to use the 3rd and 1st string as well, which is Sebia, which is E, and that's top E. I also use octaves in the 4th and the 1st position. You know, if you've got a bar chord by there, that's C by there. Of course, you've got to use your little finger as well as your pick. In the 80s there was a song by Lionel Richie called Alone that sort of incorporated octaves in that, so it went something like this.